Hey everybody, Mike Naso here from IPR365.com and podweather.com with the latest on the tropics. And when we take a look out there tonight, you can see we do have a few features to touch on. We have Invest 94L here, which is, believe it or not, actually looking a little bit better organized as we go into tonight, right off the southwest coast of Florida. Forecast to continue on towards the west-southwest over the next, say, 6 to 10 hours. After that, more of a northwestern component will be likely. We also have Invest 93L, which you can see sitting still out here from that very large area of convection that moved from the ITCZ up to the northwest. It will not strike land. The only possible land I think it can affect is Bermuda, but right now it is still moving on towards the west-northwest. It does have a circulation with it, just a little increase in convection. There's a high chance this will be a system, and if both of these ended up developing, it'd be a race for names to see which one became Danielle and which one became Earl. Now, one that we should watch a little bit more carefully, in my opinion, is this little wave down here. There's nothing with it yet, and it's not showing any real signs of development, but it is showing some signs of life. You can definitely see it's flaring up out there, and it's these under the radar waves that often can come back and haunt us. That happened with the wave that spawned Hurricane Charlie. It was a similar looking wave in early August about 6 years ago that really didn't do much, and then once it got towards the islands it blew up. Same that spawned Hurricane Felix just 3 short years ago. This should continue west into the Caribbean. We'll talk about all these features. First and foremost is our Invest, and here's the latest on it. You can see Invest 94L is currently moving to the southwest, and if it actually continued that motion, it would make landfall over Chetumal, Mexico here within about 4 or 5 days. However, it is expected to eventually come up and around to the west and kind of do this sea hook thing back into the southeastern United States. And most of the models are in pretty good agreement, somewhere between, I don't know, say Intercoastal City, Louisiana and Mobile, Alabama. Somewhere in this area here in the middle, the Louisiana-Mississippi border region appears to be the most likely spot for this to come in. How strong? It could be a depression or a subtropical system or nothing at all but a tropical low, if that, or it could be a hurricane. This GFDL model does bring it up close to a Category 2 hurricane before making landfall there just south of the city of New Orleans. So it does bear watching because conditions could get quite a bit more favorable for it as time goes on. Now, let me show you here the latest satellite imagery of our system, and you can see this loop. I sped it up to give you some idea of where it's looking. You see how the convection here is a little bit interesting. It's kind of blowing up there, right in here, right around what appears to be a developing circulation. Now, to give you some indication of where you're looking, areas of reference, here's the Tampa Bay region here. This is the Charlotte Harbor region. This is Naples here. And down here are the Florida Keys, which extend out like that, actually a bit lower than that, actually. So you can get an idea of where we are with this system as of right now and how it's trying to blow up, but we're not seeing any indication of any rapid organization. But when it's blowing up like this, kind of trying to catch whatever spin there is and environmental conditions are improving, that's when you've got to keep an eye on it. Taking a look at the radar out there tonight, it's probably a muggy hot night down there in Florida, and this little twist right in here is what we're watching. Take a look at that on the loop. You can see there is a little ever so slight twist, and you can see these rain showers here moving along in a direction that fits a developing circulation, kind of like that. And you can definitely see there is that rotation right around in there. Good line of storms moving in towards, say, Fort Lauderdale, all the way down to Marathon. A long stretch of the Florida coast, there is that line of storms, but it actually appears to be moving a little bit more in that direction, so Miami, you could get some thunderstorms later on tonight. But we'll keep an eye on this system, no doubt, for any potential eventualities with it. Now there's the Central Atlantic. There's 93L sitting right about here. Taking a look at the latest model guidance on it, you can definitely see this system's likely to head out, but right now it's moving almost straight west, just ever so slightly north of due west. If it continued that, it would strike rather close to, say, West Palm Beach, maybe just north of there. However, that's 5 days out in the current motion. It is expected to start to gain latitude and turn out, and we won't have to deal with it. The consensus is that it will end up way out here within 5 days' time. But some models do indicate that it could reach hurricane intensity, and again, when we take a look at the satellite imagery, you can see there is a vigorous spin with it. So to see this develop into a hurricane would not surprise me, but right now I think a tropical storm at best. Again, here's a look at that wave I was mentioning, another little one behind it. Watch these, because as you take a look at the GFS model, this was the model run from earlier in the day, and obviously it didn't show much over the next 2 weeks, but look what comes out of the Caribbean. Look what comes out of the Caribbean based on this model in about 10 to 14 days. Long way out, but a strong hurricane pulling right up towards the Gulf Coast, and a developing hurricane moving right along towards the west here. Now that was the earlier run. This is the run as of 18Z, and you can see what it does. Here's our system here right now. There's our system over the Gulf Coast. And you can see that it pretty much takes our system into the Gulf Coast and takes our other system up and out. But in the longer ranges, what it begins to do is show that system in the Western Gulf and the Western Caribbean a little bit further south. It doesn't take it up like that first run I showed you. It continues it more because of the ridging built in. But it also shows a hurricane, a Cape Verde hurricane sitting right here, and it shows the hurricane moving almost straight west. So this is by the time we get to the 23rd, 24th of August, which is typically the time things really heat up. So I'd watch this area of the Western Caribbean the next week, week and a half, and off Africa I'd keep an eye on that, because at any time during the next 2 weeks, based on these model guidance runs, we could see some serious activity coming from areas of the Cape Verde Islands. Anything like what this model shows would be worrying, of course. Anything like that would be very, very concerning, and we'd have to deal with that down the road. Now here's the latest wind shear profile, and look at how low the wind shear is. You're talking, I mean, this wind shear has gone down by 30 knots in some areas, by 20 knots out here. If this isn't an indication that we are getting closer and closer to the heart of this season, I don't know what is. If we had a storm moving right now anywhere throughout the Caribbean into the Gulf Coast, or if it was moving up in this area near the Bahamas into Florida and the Gulf, it would have an absolute reservoir of hot water and low wind shear. And there's only a better pattern building over the Gulf, which is why we need to watch that Gulf system, because if it does form a low-level center, similar to, say, Umberto or something, and it starts spinning fast and blowing up convection and decides to take a little southwest dive before coming back up, then we could deal with a lot stronger system, potentially even a hurricane based on some of the models. That wave out here, as I mentioned, keep an eye on that. That's got a pretty good environment ahead. It doesn't have a spin with it. It's not an invest yet, not on the Hurricane Center map, but it's definitely something I'm sure even they're watching with a wary eye as we go into August. In the Eastern Pacific, still a depression. We're not going to have to deal with it anymore. It's getting entrained into this larger low, which has a low chance for development right now. And taking a look in the Western Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Dianmu, and is 55 miles an hour, gusting to 75. It's moving north at 16, and it's expected to make a right turn and end up striking areas of Korea there, and even in Japan here in the northwestern Pacific. Shouldn't become a typhoon, though, as it continues to head out. Taking a look at the satellite of it this morning, out there it's in the morning, and you can definitely see it's trying to become a typhoon with a well-defined circulation center, a little bit dry on the western side, but still pulling on up a pretty good vorticity of wind, waves, and moisture towards Korea and then towards Japan over the next several days. I'm Mike Naso from IPR365.com. That's it for this evening. Have a good night, and I will talk to you tomorrow.